Hello, Steve Persch here, lead developer advocate at Pantheon. We're at DrupalCon Seattle. I'm talking with Kat White, CTO of Kanopi. Drupal 8, of course, is a hot topic here at DrupalCon. I understand you just put a cool Drupal 8 project on Pantheon. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I'd love to. We did just put a really fun project up on Pantheon for Coit, which is a residential and commercial cleaning company that also does emergency services. And we were moving them off of a D7 multi-site and moving them into D8 that was domain access driven, trying to work with, they are a franchise model. They've got over 100 franchises between the US and Canada. And much of that franchise data, like in Drupal, is centrally managed by a single person marketing department. And their original setup, they were having to log into like literally 100 different sites to make things happen. So it was an interesting migration project. And SEO, specifically localized SEO, is a huge focus for them. So speed was paramount.
Yeah.
So we had fantastic luck working with the impressively granular and robust caching engine that's now part of Drupal 8 core.
Sure.
And that coupled with the improvements that Pantheon gave them from an architectural perspective.
Yeah, global CDN.
Yeah, it's been great. Well, we got their homepage load time down to 50 milliseconds.
That's amazing.
So less time than it takes to blink.
Yeah.
And we've been really, really pleased with that. And they've seen fantastic gains overall from the redesign and the rebuild in terms of, gosh, they've almost doubled their conversion rate.
Yeah.
And they're making inroads in local SEO as well. So it was a fun project. Lots of complexities with like the migration and entity cloning and figuring out how you manage and tokenize all of this information in a way that's going to make it maintainable for the long term.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, so you mentioned the improvement in the business metrics that this website is delivering for Coit. Can you speak to how Kanopi has that conversation? I think a lot of the Drupal community can focus so heavily on the tech, and the tech is exciting. Clients though are paying for outcomes fundamentally. How does Kanopi manage that dynamic?
So with any project we do, obviously clients are looking to make an impact to their bottom line with their investment in their website. And let's face it, Drupal 8 projects, Drupal projects in general are big projects. They're big investments.
Yeah.
So this is not the content management system you pick for quick, nimble, time to market, marketing initiatives for the most part. So we start every project with a lot of user research and a lot of discovery and a lot of conversations with the client stakeholders up front to say, what are your key performance indicators?
Yes.
Your KPIs. What are the things you want to get out of the site? We'll do a summary where we really distill down and consolidate that information. So in this case, it was things like they were having tons of year-over-year increases in mobile traffic. So things had to be mobile friendly.
Yes.
Things had to be fast. We had to retain local SEO.
Yeah.
Once we set those as part of discovery and everybody agrees to them, they then become kind of the guiding star as we go through the whole build. And then we take the analytics data and metrics after the fact and see how did we perform against those business goals. But what that also gives our clients is as they move into more of a iterative, ongoing relationship with us where we'll manage supporting their site, doing feature development, that kind of thing, we can always refer back to those goals and metrics and figure out what the next steps need to be, because sites are never done, right?
Yes.
It's always this full life cycle.
Yeah.
So what happened, when you take that approach, it's great because I can go back to the client and say, hey, your website investment, which was a big investment, paid for itself in 3 months.
That's a great way to put it.
You can look at the ROI that they're getting.
Yes.
And it's easy to focus on the tech, but the tech ultimately is a tool in service of the client's goals, not the goal itself.
Sure. So for those Drupal developers that are focused very much on the tech right now, the migration from Drupal 7, I presume you mentioned Drupal 7 migrating to Drupal 8. What advice do you have for developers who are looking at the migrate system, perhaps getting overwhelmed with the number of content types, fields, nodes, all pieces of data that they have to migrate? How did you approach that specific piece of the project?
So it was an interesting project because we did not do a wholesale migration.
Okay.
And that was because in a lot of places they had a ton of content types. And a lot of upfront technical planning was done trying to kind of consolidate and refine the architecture so that they weren't going to have, we could take a component-driven approach that would give them more flexible layouts without a ton of contextually specific content types, right? As a result of that, we were only migrating sections of the site, which we found to be surprisingly more complicated than we expected. There's a lot of great documentation about wholesale point A to point B.
Yes.
But when you start trying to kind of pick and choose and be like, oh, we're only going to migrate blog posts and promotions, and we scripted some stuff for franchises, but we were only migrating core information just to kind of build out that shell because the architecture was changing so much. It got much hairier. My recommendation is do everything you can. There's a lot of work you can do from your existing site to make your migration easier long term.
Okay, like what?
So to start looking at, actually do a full content audit.
Yes.
And figure out what you can cut, because the less stuff you have to deal with, the better. How far back do you really want to go? Really think about what of this content is mission critical, what can I leave behind? Sometimes, as part of your routine support, you can work piece by piece on trying to consolidate down content types that might be very, very similar. Like, is there iterative feature development you can do on your existing property? Because it's not like D7's dead in the water, so what could you do in the existing architecture to simplify your life when you make the move? I like to look for those opportunities, because a lot of the times we have folks who are like, oh, hey, I know I need to get to D8 eventually, but there's so much I could do right here, right now, still in my D7 site, to make it cleaner, better, faster, and easier when I ultimately reach that point.
And with Drupal 9 on the horizon, how do you frame that conversation with your customers, saying, here's your great new Drupal 8 site, by the way, Drupal 9 is coming?
So I have a couple of different conversations, because there are always people who are like, I'm in Drupal 7.
Yes.
Do I make the investment now to go to 8?
Right.
Do I wait for 9? Drupal is the initiative for seamless upgrades and backwards compatibility is very exciting to me and very interesting to me. And this idea that in theory, when Drupal 9 is here, it will be a relatively small lift, as opposed to this architectural thing we've seen historically with Drupal, where every major version change is this massive undertaking. So that's exciting, and so that's the and there's a lot of great work and a lot of great folks focused on that right now. And for my folks in D8, that's where we are with that conversation.
Sure.
Is I can reassure them that yes, we just did a huge D8 build. The good news is the lift will be relatively small when we get to 9.
Yes.
For the folks in 7 who are trying to figure out whether to wait or not, we're very interested in Kanopi at providing longer term Drupal 7 support. So I'm able to just tell them, hey, your D7 site is solid, it's secure, it's well built. Let's just coast for a little while until 9 is out in the wild and we see what we're dealing with, and let's do it then.
Sure.
Because right now, for some of them, it just doesn't make sense. We generally look at the things that D8 offers over D7, and if those are things that, again, going back to the business goals, are mission critical for the organization, are really going to add value, then we'll make the jump. Otherwise, if things are basically working where they are, let's not mess with the good thing.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Kat White, CTO of Kanopi, thanks so much for joining me here.
Absolutely,
at
thanks for having
DrupalCon.
me.
Have a great convention.
Thanks, you too.